Neville here. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're all doing good and staying happy and healthy. Today we are going to talk about a game that I would say was fundamental to my childhood. That being the legendary Gran Turismo 4 on the good old PS2. Growing up, I had 3 racing games that I absolutely adored and that I feel helped me become interested in cars in the modern time, even if I didn't realize it at the time. Those being Need for Speed Most Wanted, the original, not the reboot, Need for Speed Underground 2, and the main character of today's video, Polyphony Digital's Gran Turismo 4. Between those 3 games, I probably have easily 1,000 hours plus between them with how much that I would play them back when I was younger. I still very fondly remember coming home from school and absolutely just running to my PlayStation and just racing around when I was younger. And while sure, when I was younger, I didn't really express much interest, if at all, in cars and motorsports in terms of real life, just in video games. I do feel they are what got me subconsciously interested, so that now in the modern day, especially over the past year or so, I am actually interested in cars in real life and motorsports. Well, when I say motorsports, just rally, not really any other motorsports, but still, you get my point.
Into double caution jump! Double caution jump! No, stay on road! Sammy, please!
I think that Gran Turismo was more of a helper than that of any of the other two, as it was based more in realism than the blistering speeds, destruction, and high jumping of the games like Need for Speed. Instead, Gran Turismo was more racing on things like your closed circuits at a more realistic speed, with more realistic car reactions and actual car terms that affected the car, like your horsepower, your torque, your downforce, which younger me had no idea what any of that actually meant. Even though I did act like I thought what it meant, I had no idea. Now, this was my first time going back and playing this game in probably well over 10 years, and the first one that I played since Gran Turismo 6, as Gran Turismo 7 and Gran Turismo Sport I have not played. And my word, I do need to say, this game holds up surprisingly well for a game that is now over 20 years old. Was I good at it? Well, no. Let's just say I struggled to even just get silver medals for the license tests, never mind gold. But regardless of my skill level, it was still a blast nonetheless. And also, just going back and opening the game for the first time and seeing that opening cinematic, it just blasted me with such a sense of nostalgia. It just made me feel so happy. I was loving it. Speaking of the license test that I mentioned, there was one though that I did find infuriating and that I would say I maybe didn't really enjoy. That one being the International License A test number 15. What you have to do for this one is there's a guided lap around the Nürburgring, and how that works is at all time you need to keep all 4 wheels on the road. If all 4 wheels go off, instant fail. You need to not hit a wall. And also with it being guided, there's a pace car that you cannot overtake or you cannot hit, or else, as mentioned, it's a fail and you have to start over, and there's like a time limit you have to do this all under. Overall, doesn't sound too bad, right? Yeah, well, the reason that I found this so infuriating is that the Nürburgring is not a short track. For those of you that know, it's the longest track in the game. So while all the previous guided lap tests were only 2 or 3 minutes at the most, this one was 9 minutes just to get the gold medal. So routinely I would get to like 7 or 8 minutes, starting to get near the end, and I would accidentally lose control of the car going off the road, or hitting a wall and having to start over, wasting a lot of time. The thing is, like, for me, the way I viewed it is the license test I feel like should be something to like learn the mechanics of the game, sort of act like a tutorial, but I felt like this was more just to test your skills instead, which I didn't really feel personally fit in with the vibe of the other license tests. I know that after this there is still the super license where everyone is doing a timed lap around a track, the final one being again a timed lap around the Nürburgring, but that one I didn't find too bad. One, because it's the final license test in the entire game, so by then I had the most amount of driving experience with the game, so I knew a lot better how the car's handled, the handling model, all that kind of stuff. And also it's just a timed lap, so there isn't a pace car to worry about, it's just my own driving to worry about, so I didn't really find that one as infuriating. But going back on track to this particular one with the pace car, I did feel the game was somewhat inconsistent with the pace car, as sometimes I would hit the pace car and nothing would happen, I would still continue the game fine, but other times I'd hit it with what I felt like less speed and less force, and it would fail me, which I didn't understand. I had the same experience as well with hitting walls in the game with the license test. Sometimes I would hit the wall and it'd be fine, other times I'd hit the wall again with what felt like less speed and it would fail me. So I don't know, maybe I didn't really fully understand the mechanic, or maybe the game is inconsistent there. I don't know, just something I thought I would, point out. But regardless, this caused me to spend over 30 minutes just to get the bronze medal on this test, failing over and over and over and over and over again. I didn't really enjoy it, but I will be honest with one thing, once I did beat it, it felt very, very satisfying to do so. But driving around, it immediately took me back to being young, rushing to the PlayStation, racing as computers, and inevitably losing against them, because same as now, I sucked at the game back then, but even more back then, because this was my first quote-unquote sim racer. So I didn't really understand you can't play it like a Need for Speed game where you're always going flat out and smashing into walls. That's just not going to work, whereas it did kind of work in those older Need for Speed games. I also remember racing against friends when I was younger, my brother and my mother, and just genuinely this game filled me with such a big sense of joy racing around the tracks again. Now, even though I had put countless hours into this game as a child, this was my first time actually playing the Gran Turismo mode, as younger me was too stupid to really understand how the mode worked and too bad to win races of any kind. I just used to race around in the arcade mode when I was younger. So just to explain what the Gran Turismo mode is, it's essentially the career mode of the game, where the loop, honestly, I found so addicting, where you get a license so that you can do certain types of events, get a car, do races in the car, get money to upgrade the car, and then loop around again by getting an upgraded license when you run events that you can either no longer do with your current license, or using the money to buy a new car if there was a specific event you wanted to do, but you didn't have a qualifying car to do. It was so addicting. I loved it. I would spend hours on it without realizing how much time had passed. Also, one thing I absolutely loved and that made me giddy to see was during my first cup with the Sunday Cup, I saw the CPU racing around in a Honda Fit or a Honda Jazz, depending on where you reside, different names in different regions.
Yo, you wanna see some real speed, bitch? I'll show you some real speed.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Now you may ask, why did this get me excited? It's not a particularly cool car. Well, the reason for that is, in real life, I actually drive a 2007 Honda Jazz. It's my first car I've ever owned, and while the car is nothing special, it doesn't look super cool, it's not particularly fast, it does have a soft place in my heart due to being the first car I've ever had, and due to that having also so many memories with it, like driving my girlfriend on our first dinner date together, the first time driving to my friend's place, driving myself for the first time on a highway, driving myself for the first time to see friends, family, so forth. And seeing it in video game form was honestly kind of cool, as it's not a car that I think I've ever really seen in racing games. Granted, it's not the exact car model I drive because, as mentioned, mine is a 2007 and the game came out in late 2004 in Japan, but it looks similar enough to mine that I can roleplay. And I think that is when I realized what makes games like Gran Turismo and your modern day Forza Horizon so special. And that is with the car having around 720 cars in it. There's a chance that whatever odd car you have a special feeling towards for whatever reason has a decent chance of being in the game available to race if it's a car that was somewhat popular around the time that the game released. And sure, while it is absolutely sick blasting around in a BMW Need for Speed Most Wanted, there's just something special about beating people in your unassuming daily driver. Like, I don't know, there's just something so nice about that. Also, yes, I did mention the game has around 720 cars, all being from around 50 different manufacturers. It's a lot. And these range from cars that you wouldn't expect, like ones ranging back from the 1886 Daimler motor carriage, which is considered to be the first true car or motor vehicle with its truly neck-breaking 1 horsepower, even though I believe the real-life vehicle only had 0.75 horsepower, so not even a full horsepower in real life. Which is also, as far as I can tell, the only game ever to include this vehicle, which is a pretty cool thing. 2 cars that you would obviously expect in a 2004 racing game, like your BMW M3s, Audi TTs, Dodge Vipers and more, even up to some other obscure ones like Jay Leno's tank cars in the game, and concept cars for the year 2022. Yes, you heard me right, I did say 2022. Nothing to make you feel old like a game from your childhood having concept cars designed from a year that ended 3 years ago. Just learning that I experienced back pain just having that information into my head. I did not like that. You could also take these cars all over the place with 51 different tracks, from closed circuits to off-road rally stages where you could just throw the car around with dirt, and city stages, which includes my personal favorite stage in the game, Città d'Aria in Italy. Yes, I will admit, the track is extremely claustrophobic, and due to that super annoying to try to overtake other cars cleanly, but I feel that's low-key part of what makes it such a fun and memorable track. I low-key honestly wish that more racing games had tracks like that because it's kind of unique, and I think that's also another reason why I remember it so well. As well, yes, as mentioned, it's an extremely inconvenient track. It's a blast flying around in the tight streets, you know, trying to overtake people whenever you can and crashing into the buildings. Like, it's just a genuinely fun experience that I loved. Something that I also completely forgot about is that this game has a jamming licensed soundtrack, which I'm low-key surprised that I forgot about because, I mean, I remember songs like Riders on the Storm playing in Underground 2 when I was younger and much, much more, but Gran Turismo I didn't remember a single licensed song until I started the game back up and did my first race, where I was honestly surprised during my first race that there was actually licensed music playing. Like, that's to the degree of which I forgot about these songs. But man, oh man, was I happy to rediscover the jamming soundtrack, as personally I feel just as important to a racing game's handling model is its soundtrack. as the right music can get you in the right zone for blasting around corners and absolutely flooring it down the straights. It has your classics like Nothing Wrong by Jimmy Eat World and Getting Away with Murder by Papa Roach, among many other songs that I would say helped formulate my childhood into having the music taste that I have nowadays. But there's definitely one song that I did not like, and that was every time that you would fail a license test, it would play Oh Yeah by Yellow, and I felt like the game was touching me inappropriately for failing a license test. And with how difficult some of the license tests were, I heard this playing a lot of times. Just listen to this and let me know how you feel afterwards. Yeah, you're right, it is disgusting. Speaking of, as I mentioned, I failed license tests a lot in this game, which with some, well, notably just the one that I previously mentioned with the Nürburgring, could be infuriating. Overall, I actually found enjoyable and I really liked, and I kind of missed because, personally, I feel like nowadays with modern games, they're kind of scared to challenge the player. They are scared to make something difficult, they are scared to have the player lose. I mean, take the modern Need for Speeds, for example. The most recent one I played, I believe, being Heat. I haven't played Unbound, but Heat and Payback, I played both of them on the hardest difficulty, and even on the hardest difficulty, I would find myself being leagues ahead of the other races a lot of the time. It's just like they are scared to make the player lose in the modern games, so it was nice having a game that was not scared to make you lose, a game that was not scared to make you have to actually learn and get better at the game to accomplish something. I low-key miss that, and it's something that I wish more games would bring back and do, as I feel like a lot of games nowadays, they just designed to just be an easy breeze to go through where you turn your brain off. I don't know, it was just nice having that, but yeah. As mentioned, the song that they played when you failed the license tests, horrid. I think that's maybe why I forgot about the license soundtrack in this game, because I think maybe younger me from when I tried to do the license test and just kept failing, it traumatized me and I closed it off because it is such an oddly sensual sounding song in the game that I did not expect. Another thing that was jarring in a maybe not so good way, but also not a terrible way, was just going back to some of the more old school control style from the games. For those of you who have never played a racing game from the PS2 period and before, you may not even have realized this. While not terrible in any way, and once you get used to them, they do feel fine, they are jarring when you're not used to the modern races. What I mean by this is, when I started my very first race, like you would in any other racer nowadays, I pulled in the R2 button like I naturally would, and nothing happened. My car didn't accelerate, it didn't move, nothing. At first I was thinking maybe something is either wrong with my controller, or with the totally legitimate PlayStation 2 I was playing off where I was using a PS5 controller. But then I remembered something about these. You don't actually accelerate using the R2 button, and you don't brake using the L2 button. In these older games, a lot of the time you would accelerate by pressing the X button, and brake by pressing the square button. Or another way that you could do it is you could use the right analog stick by moving the stick up to accelerate and down to brake. But I'm just going to be honest, anyone who uses the analog stick for that, you are a psycho. I'm just saying now, yes, sure, with the analog stick, you can control how hard you are pressing down the throttle, so it probably is objectively the better way to play the game, but it just feels so unnatural for me to control it that way. But as I said, once you do get used to the controls, it isn't really a major issue, as overall, I do find that the cars control well, and that the handling model, while definitely not realistic by today's standards with your games like R-Factor and iRacing around, it did still feel very nice to drive around, and based in reality, with cars feeling like they have weight when you move around, and you have to be careful with things like understeering and oversteering in a way that never felt like too annoying, unfair, or unfun. My only real criticism I would maybe give to the handling model is I did feel like sometimes the cars would not have enough grip and would be too easy for wheel spin to happen. Like, that's the only real critique that I had with the handling model, but it was never too big of an issue in my own personal opinion. Also, another thing, from a game from 2004, I do feel that the game holds up graphically really well, with a lot of detail in the cars, the tracks looking good. Like, I just feel like the game generally was really good looking, which I suppose does make sense based on one fact. That being, it's one of only 4 games that I could find in my research that did support HD compatibility with the PS2, because while the PS2 couldn't do 1080p, it could do 1080i, which Gran Turismo 2 took advantage of. The other games, from what I could find, being NHL 2004, Valkyrie Profile 2 Silmeria, and Tourist Trophy, which was also made by Polyphony Digital, but focused more on motorbike racing instead of car racing. It was another game that I played quite a bit of during my childhood, but I definitely did prefer Gran Turismo 2 Tourist Trophy, but also was not a bad game. Maybe something I could go back and replay sometime as well, maybe make a video. Let me know in the comments if you would like that. The only area I would say I probably did not like with the game would be the sound effects and the sound design. As to me, a lot of the cars sounded very generic, similar, and clunky. But to be fair, the game is over 20 years old and from a different time period, so I'm not going to knock the game too heavily for it, because also doing my research, from what I could see, a lot of people were praising the game from the time with its sound design. So I think it's just because with modern racing games especially, we are very blessed when it comes to the sound design and sound effects. So I'm not going to knock it too much, because I think it's just a thing because it was a product of the time, you know, and I don't feel it's fair for me to like hold that against the game, you know, especially if at the time people were praising it. So yeah, I did mention earlier the Gran Turismo mode, which as mentioned is essentially like the career mode of the game. Within this mode, there are 2 different ways that you can play. The first one is your regular mode, what they call the A-Spec mode, in which you are the person racing, you are the person controlling the car and all of that. So one other mode they had, this was the first game where they introduced what was called the B-Spec mode, where you act more as a manager, where there is an AI driving the car and you are telling the AI how to drive the car, with like when to try overtake, when they should drive aggressively, defensively, and monitoring things like the tire wear and the fuel consumption so that you can tell them when to go into a pit stop. I'm not sure if modern Gran Turismos do have this still, because as mentioned, the 2 most recent ones being Sport and 7 I haven't played, but this was the first one to introduce it for if that mode is still in those games. I'm gonna be real though, this mode was not for me. I found B-Spec mode to be incredibly boring, but if you are someone who likes the more sports management mode games, I can see it being enjoyable. However, it's just not for me, as I find those games to be boring. So this mode was naturally just extremely boring for me. There was also another new thing that they introduced in this game, that being what was called driving missions. These are somewhat similar to the license tests, as in you have an objective you need to complete on a set track using a set car. It's just that the type of objectives are different to the license tests. While license tests I feel were generally speaking more for learning the mechanics of the game and essentially, as mentioned, acting like a pseudo tutorial to the game, driving missions I feel were more for testing your skills for what you've already learned in the game. So with your license test, you'd have to do things like stop a car in a certain place within a certain amount of time, doing, as mentioned previously, a guided lap, learning how to corner effectively within a certain time, and so forth. While your driving mission objectives were more things like having to overtake an opponent within a certain distance, overtake multiple opponents within several laps, and so forth. So as mentioned, I think a bit more challenging to test your skills and not so much based on just learning the mechanics. Also, another thing, while earlier I did mention overall the game's handling and physics, definitely not perfect. What I'm referring to is a lot of the time I'd find it more effective to just essentially torpedo into the other cars in corners to overtake them instead of trying to take the corner normally, as the other cars, they didn't really seem to have like any friction or anything like that to them, so you just like bounce off of the cars without any real collision physics, so there wouldn't really be a drawback to doing so. So that's like something that I feel was a bit weird, but I know from Gran Turismo 6, which was the last one I played, there was like similar things going on there, so I don't know. Maybe it's just like a Gran Turismo thing. I don't know if it's still like that in the newer games or not, but yeah. Another thing which I found, which personally I didn't really care for, I didn't really find a big issue, but I can see some people finding to be an annoyance in the game, is that there's a lot of the times where you can just kind of shortcut the tracks. Especially when there's a chicane, like on Fuji Speedway, the Driving Park Beginner Course, and Circuit de la Sarta, without there being any real kind of repercussions, because the game doesn't really have a track limit system when it comes to races. Sure, in the Gran Turismo mode, if you do hit a wall, there is a 5-second penalty thing for it, but if you go off the road, there's no downside to that. And while I was playing by myself, so this didn't really affect me, I do feel like this could possibly lead to some arguments if you are someone who's playing the game with other people and you maybe not taking the game too seriously, but other people are taking it too seriously, so then you take the shortcuts and then it leads into an argument and what have you. Definitely not speaking out of experience here, because totally when I was younger, I wasn't someone who totally didn't take the game seriously and would do that the whole time, and sometimes would play with friends that took the game too seriously and then they would get like really annoyed with me and refuse to continue playing the game with me. Totally not something that happened when I was younger. Another thing though that I found honestly very surprising, and I was very happy and pleasantly surprised by, is that the game actually has some decent modding support, which I did not have any knowledge about or did not expect until I started doing research for this game for this video. Probably the biggest and most well-known mod being what is referred to as the Spec 2 mod, which aims to mainly just like update the game by doing things like adding in new events, new driving missions, doing some quality of life improvements, improving the previously mentioned lackluster engine sounds, adding some new cars, and many other things as well. But my personal favorite would be that there's a Gran Turismo 4 randomizer, which takes your username that you give in the beginning of the game and creates a random seed based off of that, which randomizes every prize car in the game. I haven't mentioned prize cars yet, so just a quick rundown for anyone who doesn't know. In the Gran Turismo mode, anytime that you complete like a license event or a cup, you get a prize car as a result of that is added to your garage, which you can choose to either use or you can sell or whatever you want with it. So this could lead to some really hilarious situations, especially if you played it as a sort of prize car challenge where the only cars you could use were the cars that you would get as a prize car and you weren't allowed to buy any other cars, because you could spend hours upon hours upon hours farming every gold medal on the license tests or doing the extremely long endurance races and get an absolute shitbox like the previously mentioned Daimler motor carriage, which with its 1 horsepower is essentially impossible to win any races with. Or you could just do the extremely easy Sunday Cup and get the Ford GT or the Toyota Minolta or any of the other fastest cars in the game, which I just found absolutely hilarious, but also really enjoyable, because doing it as a prize car challenge, it would result in me driving some more weird cars that, if I'm choosing what cars I'm driving, I would never think of owning and driving in the game. So it was really just like an enjoyable thing to do, and something that if you have played the game before and you want an excuse to go back and play it, I think doing it with the randomized mod is a really good way to do so as a prize car challenge. I think anyone will find it enjoyable. But that is essentially it for today's video on Gran Turismo 4. Honestly, a gem of a game from my childhood that I would recommend anyone to go back to if you played 2 previously. And even if you haven't played it before, I would recommend going and playing it for the first time, as I feel the game does hold up remarkably well. Sure, there are a few shortcomings, annoyances, whatever you want to call it, but nothing that ruins the experience or makes it non-enjoyable, which I was really happy about, because something I find a bit depressing in my adult years is sometimes when we go back and play a game that we loved in our childhood, sometimes they just don't hold up in the modern era, which I find really depressing, but I feel this game holds up remarkably well, so definitely recommend to anyone. If you did enjoy the video, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like. I would love to do more videos like this in the future of just, talking about random games. Also, leave a comment, let me know what you think of Gran Turismo 4. Is it a game that you also have a sense of nostalgia for? Have you recently played it for the first time? If so, what did you think of it? Or have you never played Gran Turismo 4 before? Let me know. Also, if there's any other games in specific you would like me to talk about, whether they're old, new, whatever, let me know. Maybe I can make a video on it. You never know. Also, I do below in the description have all of my socials linked, with things like my Discord and also my Twitch, where I do stream at least once a week. So if you want to come, watch, and just speak about anything gaming or just hang out, please do drop by. I would love to see you all there. But yeah, for anyone still sticking around, just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Stay happy, everyone. Stay healthy, everyone. Bye bye.